tufanye kazi pamoja na tukue pamoja. Kuimarisha Kenya ni jukumu la Farm Kenya.
All right, welcome back to the Farm Kenya show. Very interesting discussion we are having today. Matters to do with gene editing, GMO, and whether it's safe or not, and the application of it. And in studio I have Dr. Paul Chavariaga, who's the global leader biotechnology at Alliance of Biodiversity International and CIET. Thank you very much for making time. We also have Anne Maina, National Coordinator, Biodiversity Association of Kenya, BIBA Kenya. Thank you very much. And before we went for a break, there was that clarification. First of all, just to remind us that when you talk about genetically modified organisms, GMO is introducing a new element into the genome or the gene. So you pick something that you want exemplified in that particular product, you add it. Then there is the gene editing, where you go into that gene and you look at the characteristics within the gene and try alter, reduce the prevalence of one or increase the prevalence of the other, so that you have your desired outcomes. And we're discussing the safety of it, the concern, and initially you had raised that particular concern, but even more importantly, looking at the application, because GMO, the original one, you know, before 2.0, yeah, the original one has been there for a while, as you earlier mentioned, looking at the intervention of biotechnology to solving the challenges that we have right now. Have you seen positives? Is it making sense, or do we still have to do things that we know or traditionally have been safe and hold on to those particular standards?
Thank you. Just to clarify also, for gene-edited products, you can cut, you can insert.
Yes.
Yeah, you can also insert. But as you ask about the safety of gene-edited products or traditional genetically engineered crops, there are still major concerns that have been raised. Maybe some people might argue, like, if you look at the COVID, some of the COVID vaccines that were produced, some of them were said to have been genetically engineered. I'm not sure about that, but you can see some of the impacts later that you are saying. I'm sure you've heard of people who collapse because of a clot, and they're collapsing. Many cases of sudden death, and some scientists have linked this to some of these vaccines that we took during the COVID epidemic, or rather not an epidemic, the COVID season. But concerns about genetically engineered crops still exist about their safety. Their link, especially if you look at the herbicide tolerant, to the extensive use of agrochemicals, highly hazardous pesticides, which are linked to other challenges. And when you talk, for example, at the genes, and you say you just change one gene or you cut and do this. If you look at a normal person, they say that you have 23. A child who's born with Down syndrome, only one gene has changed, only one. And so scientists that have questioned the safety of gene-edited products have said sometimes in the cutting, how the genes come back and interact, there could be some issues, because often when you're looking, you look for what you want when they're testing. So if you're not sure of what you're looking for, you will not get it.
Okay.
Back to the question of you are targeting, but are you really precise?
Okay.
And how are the interactions?
And definitely, and Dr. Paul mentioned that the technology actually is getting preciser, for lack of a better word. But even, because, I mean, a normal person's thought about a scientist is always experimenting before you roll out something. Right. Of course, as technology grows, then that process is sort of fastened because the technology is better at the end of the day. But Dr. Paul, of course, Anne still holds some reservations in that regard. Talk to me, because I want us to transition the discussion into application where we are right now. Because we are in a world, climate change is quite massive. Looking at Africa, the most impacted region globally by climate change. From a scientist's perspective, you say that biotechnology is the solution Talk to me about okay, not the silver bullet, you
It's
know,
not.
but might be part of the solution when it comes to crop resilience.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Okay, the reason why I'm in this wonderful country this week is because we are holding our second annual meeting on a research project which is funded by the Gates Foundation and the Bezos Earth Fund Foundation and the Methane Hub, which is about greenhouse gases. Last week there was a whole world conference on greenhouse gases as well, which I attended. To solve the problem, there are many possibilities, many alternatives. Gene editing is just one tiny little technology that may help, it may not. I cannot promise. I cannot say this is a golden silver bullet like with the GMOs. It works sometimes, but it doesn't in different occasions. So today, the main problem with greenhouse gases is that do you eat meat?
Of course.
Do you eat meat?
Yeah.
And it comes from cows, right? Or sheep or anyway. And those are the ones that produce most of the methane that makes the greenhouse gas effect, right? So we are trying to understand how can we solve or help in solving the problem. And that's producing, let's say, forages, and grasses, or any other kind of forages that reduces the methane production. When the cow eats the grass and processes and digests, it does produce methane that goes out to the environment. And that creates a whole problem. So 30% of the methane that is produced in the world, agriculture, is because of livestock. So we are trying to switch off genes by gene editing, not producing GMOs, that reduce it's called the methanogenesis, or the ability of the plant to produce methane once it is ingested and processed by the cows. So, and that's again a tiny little piece of contribution to a major problem. But most of the effort doesn't really concentrate on gene editing. It concentrates on conventional breeding. So what we are doing simultaneously is looking at all the variability of grasses that you may have here in Kenya and look at which one of those is better to produce less methane. And you may not end up having a GMO or a gene-edited new variety, but just a regular one, which is excellent as well, as long as it fits the need of the system, right? Which is reducing the pressure of agriculture and livestock on the environment. Okay. So that's what we're doing right now.
Ah, quite interesting, because the cows discussion was a big discussion in the country a while back. I think it was tied to the hip with the vaccination of cows. People are like, oh, they want to vaccinate our cows, inject them so that they reduce methane. And now I'm getting a different perspective, is looking at their feed and trying to alter it from that level. And is that a better alternative from what we had earlier?
I think the issue of the greenhouse gases, apart from methane, and I don't think Africa is contributing so much methane, because if you look at the industrial model of agriculture, it is you see it in the northern countries. Here, mostly in the village, there are not many cows that are kept or livestock that is kept. But apart from methane, there are other sources of greenhouse gases. The industrial, or rather the agrochemicals that we're using, they are produced and release a lot of greenhouse gases. And this is a problem with climate change. But I want us to bring us back that Kenya also in November 2024, we signed, or rather we brought into force, an agroecology strategy. And when you talk about agroecology, we talk about reduction of inputs from outside, reduction of the use of intensive industrial agrochemicals, and moving towards practicing agroecology, producing locally biofertilizers and biopesticides. This, I think, is an excellent way of transitioning to a climate resilient economy in Kenya. Yes, we have a challenge with how do we manage, for example, our waste, even from the animal products. But if we practice agroecology And last year, we have the National Agroecology Strategy, and other counties are now adapting this, so that we are moving from an industrial model, or what we call a green revolution, that happened, for example, in India, and we are trying to push it here, and practice more a sustainable way of production, the use of local materials. And so when you talk to the farmers, they are producing their own compost, using the products from their farm, and are free from outside. This is a really excellent way of transitioning and reducing the impact that we are having in the increasing heat in the continent, or even in Kenya, because of the greenhouse gases that are being produced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. Dr. Paul, that particular argument, because even when you discuss about climate change and the contribution of greenhouse gases emissions globally, as much as Africa we feel the heaviest branch of it, we are the least contributor when you look at an overall scale of things. Is it an intervention that we've seen in some of the developed markets when it comes to reducing greenhouse emissions, especially from animals? Is it something that has happened in many of these developed markets, or are we starting with Kenya? Because there's also an element of skepticism. Why are we starting with us? Why can't you start with the US or something else?
I think it's a very hot discussion today, because that's his personal view. It's no one wants to give the first step towards, like, say, okay, I'm going to stop producing milk or meat. It's impossible today. You can't do that, right? Because you have to feed the world. And that's why, going back to what you were saying in terms of agroecology, it's an excellent way to contribute to reduce greenhouse gases, yes. And it doesn't have to be a separate effort. It could be integrated to conventional breeding, to gene editing, even to GMOs. GMOs can help to reduce the use, for instance, of some pesticides, which is another way to environmentally non-friendly kind of using pesticides. But let's leave that apart. These efforts of trying to solve the problem through different technologies, different approaches, are ongoing in different countries, and countries which are very recalcitrant to GMOs and gene editing, like France itself, right? The US is putting a lot of effort into this. These big foundations, like the Gates Foundation and Bezos Earth Fund as well, they are putting lots of input into the system, so you can come up with a solution from a different perspective. It doesn't have to be, again, gene editing. Gene editing is just a little contribution. We had last year in January a meeting with researchers from France, IRD in France, and they are agroecologists essentially, but they wanted to join the effort with some other technologies like gene editing. So you can find a middle middle place where you can actually both contribute to the solution, either by improving gene ecology, agroecology, or improving gene editing, or bringing them together, because there's a lot of space to do that. So my view is I wouldn't be close to any possible technology that help us to overcome this problem, which is really pressing on the humans. The first thing you have to do is educate people, save the water, don't burn the forest and all things like that. But simultaneously, you do have to speed up the process of producing new crops that are more resilient and more beneficial for the environment. And that's pressing, and there's not much time left for you, for me. So we have to respond very fast. And one of the things that gene editing does is accelerate that process of producing new varieties without being GMOs. So again, it's a matter of understanding the concept, right? And putting them together so you can come up with a really good solution.
Definitely. Yeah. And we are coming to the tail end of these conversations. Of course, you've raised a very important the safety element of it. We need to establish more policy-wise. It seems Kenya, we've sort of placed policy documents, discussions in regards to some of these key areas. But you lean heavy on having local solutions, solutions that have worked before, just going heavy on it. Because agriculture and the wild population is growing very fast, first of all. So we are feeding more people, and it seems we are leaning heavy towards commercial side of agriculture. So mass production for massive amounts of people. How do local solutions manage to scale up and at least also be part and parcel of the solution that we're talking, even as we implement technology on one end, also we are having alternatives at par growing in the same pace?
I need to clarify that even when you talk about local solutions and when I talk about a transition to agroecology, agroecology, when you define it, is both is three things: a science, a practice, a movement. And we encourage the working with the scientists. We are not saying no science. Science is very important, and that's how we even develop varieties like Katumani. When Kenya Agriculture Research Institute was in place, now KALRO, they are the ones who developed the Katumani variety that grows, is very resilient and grows in the drier parts of the country. And so science is very important, and working with our local scientists and even those from outside. But we control who is owning this technology, who is funding this technology. Because at the end of the day, when we are talking about these technologies, when I talked about corporate interests, and you find it a lot even with the GMOs, the person who will own the seed or the technology will be able to control the whole value chain from the seed to the food. And that is very dangerous even in terms of sovereignty of Kenya. If you go to the United States, they have food reserves for like 5 years. 5 years they have reserves, because when people are hungry, they are angry. And maybe that's why Kenyans are angry. When I went to Uganda and I was asking them, so you don't complain? You're like us, we are not hungry. You know, Kenyans are hungry, so they are angry. So if you don't feed your people and ensure that they have the right kind of food, then you face those challenges. Number two, if you look, for example, at the GMOs, and I was talking about the herbicide tolerant and insect resistant GMO varieties, they use a lot of these pesticides and herbicides and all this. And you can see even the health bill now in the country, because some of these highly hazardous pesticides are banned in Europe but still being used in Kenya. We did a petition in 2019 calling for the government of Kenya to withdraw all these products that have been tested in Europe, banned there.
Yes.
But you see there's also double standards. It's Europe, the same Europe that is exporting to us, but they have very stringent requirements. When you're sending their French fries to Europe, they are tested 100%. If they are found to have high MRL levels, they are released back. And we end up eating them because our regulations are not very strong. They end up in our local market.
Definitely, and I get that concern. It's a discussion that I think we need another show just to unpack that element. But one of the arguments that I've gotten is that, first of all, being in the tropics, there's always that argument that the regulation of pesticides, it's best on region where you are, because you're growing your products in different spaces. That is one. So if we take European standards, of which even their products are being grown at a totally different ecosystem, and try and copy paste the regulations here, then it becomes a little bit difficult, because some of our products cannot survive without elements of it.
But these agrochemicals are produced in Europe.
And definitely, and that's the thing again, because it's purely commercial.
Yes.
My producer is saying our time is up, and it's a beautiful discussion. But
we can continue if you want.
We have to call it a day. But I think the message is home today, and I hope this starts a discussion, serious discussion amongst Kenyans, because we want this to be a common discussion when you're talking about our politics. We can also talk about, gene editing and GMO. Yeah, localize these discussions because they concern you at the end of the day. So we really appreciate the clarification and how we are utilizing technology to solve some of these problems, and also the concerns that do come from utilization of this technology. Of course, definitely an ongoing discussion, but I really appreciate you guys for being a good sport today. Thank you very much, Dr. Paul Chavariaga.
Asante.
Yes. Asante, Global Leader of Biotechnology, Alliance of Biodiversity International, and SEAT. And we also have Ann Maina, National Coordinator, Biodiversity Association of Kenya, BIBA. Kenya, we really appreciate you guys for making time. And thank you very much for joining with us over the past hour, talking interesting discussion. Please, let us learn more, let us engage, have these discussions, because at the end of the day, it's about you and me being, being part and parcel of this conversation when it's all said and done. My name is Noki Kimboy. Our time is up. Keep it KTN. We are out for now.
Mustakabali wa baadaye, tufanye kazi pamoja na tukue pamoja.